Have you ever thought about why is it that you continue to argue with your partner? It could be from the littlest, pettiest things to probably one of the bigger things you guys continue to argue about. One of the reasons why you continue to argue with your partner is simply because you don't know how to communicate. You don't know how to talk to your partner. But that comes to an end today because in this video, I'm going to show you how to lessen your arguments with your partner by increasing your communication skills. So sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about it right now. Now, a reason why it's hard for you to really develop a healthy relationship with your partner and why you guys continue to argue is because you simply don't know how to communicate. You do not know how to talk to each other. You guys continue to get into arguments. And for whatever reason, you think the louder you yell, the better that person's going to understand. Like, hey, if I project my voice and yell at this person, they're going to get me. But I'm here to tell you how whatever tone of voice you use as far as like being very loud and trying to project and trying to get this person to understand, that's not going to help your case in whatever it is you're trying to convey with your partner. Now, it's really simple. It's really simple. There's 3 forms of communication I'm going to break down for you guys, and there's only one you should really be using. Now, the first form of communication is passive communication. Now, with passive communication, what that looks like is you are just saying yes to everything. You are not expressing your needs. You're always meeting other people's needs, whether that's your partner or anybody else. But over time, what happens is when you are a passive communicator, you build up resentment. Why? Because you're constantly meeting everybody else's needs. Your needs are always on the back burner and always being neglected. Now, when that happens, sometimes internally, what happens is when you build up resentment, you get angry, you get upset. You don't like the person you're with. You're looking at your partner like in disgust. You know, you're tired of doing things for this person. You're tired of trying to meet this person's needs and you're burnt out from it. And you're simply, holding it all in. You're holding it all in. And what happens when you are a passive communicator, sometimes it comes out in a way in which it's all just like the floodgates just open up. It's like, you're bringing up old stuff. You're talking about you did this 10 years ago. You did this 5 years ago. You did this last week or last month. Like you continue to bring up old stuff because you didn't address what your needs were in the moment. And you were constantly putting yourself at the back burner. Now, sometimes folks may become a passive communicator just to keep the peace, really, because when you say yes to everything, sometimes you're like keeping the peace. You're keeping yourself from having an argument. You're keeping yourself from, the other person getting upset with you. You're still in a space where you're being liked, right? But when that happens, again, your needs are on the back burner. You're liked by that person, but you're probably not respected. Even in social media, the more likes you get, the more notice you get, the more popularity you get. We live in that day and age where like being liked is acceptable, right? But with a passive communicator, you may be liked by that person, but you're probably not respected. Why? Because that person isn't worried about your needs. So in relationships, it's super important for you not to just say yes to everything your partner is asking of you. Sometimes we see that as like, okay, well, you need to submit to your partner. You need to, do those things, but that's not submitting to your partner. Saying yes to everything is not submitting to your partner. What it is actually developing a unhealthy relationship to the point where you're going to have needs too one day, or, you probably already have needs now, but you're not able to fully express them or feel comfortable doing it because you feel obligated to submit or meet the needs of this other person. The second form of communication is aggressive communication. Now, aggressive is the opposite of being passive because aggressive communication is you expressing your needs without acknowledging the other person's needs, right? So on the backhand side of being passive, being aggressive, is just you solely looking at like, hey, it's all about me. It's my world. You need to do what I say. You don't have no regard for anybody else, really. You don't have any regard for anybody else. So what that looks like is when somebody's coming to you for their needs, you don't see that. You don't see that. And it's sometimes hard to admit that you are an aggressive communicator because, you don't want to seem bad. You don't want to seem like, you're the aggressor in the relationship. But in reality is, if you are an aggressive communicator, this sometimes doesn't have to come with like you yelling all the time or you like being physically, aggressive. It's just more so you're just not meeting this other person's needs when it comes to communication, right? You don't even have to yell necessarily being aggressive communication. Now, yelling is a tendency and the trait of being an aggressive communicator, but it's not solely like, hey, if you're yelling, you're an aggressive communicator. It is a characteristic, but it's not, all what aggressive communication means. Now, the other part of aggressive communication is when you are an aggressive communicator, you don't only not meet the other person's needs, but you feel like your needs are the priority. You feel like the priority. You don't feel like the other person is equally yoked or equally matched to you in a relationship. So what it may look like is, why you guys may continue to argue is because, especially if you guys are both communicating aggressively, then it's like you guys are always trying to one-up each other. You guys are always trying to one-up. No, I'm right. It's not ever like, hey, like, what's going on with you? Like, why do you feel like you're right? Or like, hey, like, why is it that you feel upset? There's no empathy with aggressive communication. There's zero empathy with aggressive communication. So if you ever find yourself in that type of situation, you want to step back and look at, hey, am I an aggressive communicator? Or is the person I'm with an aggressive communicator? Maybe, you may be passive and they may be aggressive, or you may be the aggressor and they may be passive. But passive communication and aggressive communication are two forms of communication you do not want to practice at all. The form of communication that you want to use is an assertive communication. Assertive communication allows you to express your needs, but also be able to have the capacity to understand the other person's needs as well too. So when you're assertive with your communication, you're like, hey, these are what my needs are, but what is it that you need from me, right? In arguments, that can be totally deaded if you use that form of communication. Arguments you can see a drastic decrease in arguments if you use this form of communication, if you are assertive. Now, a lot of folks will get assertive and aggressive mixed up, because when you're assertive, it's like, hey, I'm poking out my chest. I'm standing my ground. Like I'm not budging. Like I'm here, but assertive communication is that, like, you're holding your ground, but you're expressing your needs, but also having the capacity to receive as well too. You're not just putting out, hey, I'm out there. These are my needs. This is what you need to do for me, X, Y, Z. But the other part is you being able to have the capacity to, hear somebody else's needs as well too, right? Now, when we talk about aggressive and assertive communication, that's the only part that's missing. That is the ability to be able to, receive the other person's needs as well too. Now, with assertive communication, this is the other side of it, is that if somebody expresses their needs to you, the assertive communication is really you being able to have the capacity to hear them out, understand, empathize with them. Now, it's a whole nother thing to be able to carry out their needs, right? Because you may not have the capacity to carry out their needs or their wants, or whatever it is they're asking of you. So sometimes this is where the extra work comes in. And this is why I always recommend, like, if you're doing your own therapy and you're having issues with your spouse, make sure you guys get linked to a couples therapist. I have some links in my description, so most definitely check those out if you do and are interested in participating in couples therapy as well too. Now, with that being said, you have to see and understand, like, hey, do I have the capacity to meet this person's needs, right? So that, say for example, if you don't have the capacity to meet that person's needs, what you have to do now is take a step back and further communicate, like, hey, I don't think I can meet those needs, but this is what I can do, right? So it's not like, okay, I totally can't do that, right? Because then that's you being aggressive still, even when you're trying to be assertive. You hear the person's needs, but you're not fully grasping what they're saying. You're not giving an alternative. So when you're assertive, you're like, hey, I hear you, but let's try to figure out, if I can't meet those needs of what you're saying, let's try to find a way in which I can meet those needs, maybe halfway, or is it something that I can work my way to? Because today I may not have the capacity to do that. So assertive communication, again, is you expressing your needs and also have the capacity to understand where your partner is coming from as well too. If you are able to utilize assertive communication, I can guarantee that you will see a decrease in the amount of arguments that you have with your partner. I appreciate you guys for tapping in. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope this was helpful to you. I wish you guys nothing but the best in you guys' relationships, you guys' partnerships, and other endeavors you guys may have as well too, as far as like being a couple. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Terrence, Stewart, y'all take care. Peace.